Mr. Chair, are you ready to start the meeting for tonight?
Yes.
Please rise. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as Master of Arms, I have three items to report tonight. First, has been our standard procedure. We announce this public meeting through different public sources, including obviously the local newspapers, our website, and also the state, West Virginia State Secretary of State website. Second item on my report tonight is in reference to the 4 charter committees that we have for the board. At this point in time, all 4 of the board or the charter committees are now functioning, have organized and begun operations. In this case, particularly this month of October, a lot of progress was made on the Labor Committee. The third item in my report is in reference to an event that occurred last week that highlighted a role that's sometimes not well understood, which is that of the Sergeant of Arms. As you're well aware, last week in Canada, an armed intruder entered the Parliament building in Ottawa and was subsequently stopped, subdued, and actually in this case shot and fatally wounded by the Sergeant of Arms of that organization. It recognizes one of the most important roles of the Sergeant of Arms, which is to ensure the safety and integrity of the operations of the government body, in this case Parliament, and in our case we also have a Master of Arms, which in this case is me. We took the liberty last week of also then recognizing the heroic role of the Sergeant of Arms at Parliament, and I would like to read into the record the letter that we sent to Parliament recognizing the heroic act of the Sergeant of Arms there, Mr. Kevin Vickers. So let me go ahead and read this then for the board. To the Honorable Audrey Elizabeth O'Brien, Clerk of the House, House of Commons, Parliament Buildings, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Subject, recognition of Kevin M. Vickers, Sergeant at Arms. Madam Clerk, on behalf of the Weirton Area Port Authority, a political subdivision of the state of West Virginia, I would like to commend the brave actions of the House of Commons Sergeant at Arms, Mr. Kevin M. Vickers, in defending the sanctity of Canada's Parliament body in its deliberations as a freely elected government. The role of the Sergeant at Arms was brought into sudden focus as a result of the events of October the 22nd and the responsive actions taken by Mr. Vickers in executing his role to defend Parliament. Mr. Vickers' actions are to be applauded, and this incident reminds me of my own duties as a Master of Arms and a need for vigilance in these troubling times. In unity with the rest of America and all free and just peoples around the world, the Weirton Area Port Authority and myself wish to extend our heartfelt wishes and support to the Canadian people. Sincerely yours, Martin Sahovich, Master of Arms, Weirton Area Port Authority. For the record.
Thanks, Marty. All right, so for the roll call, I'll just do the roll call on the slide. I'll start with Mark Elliptis.
Here.
Santos Santoro is not here today. Doug Veligal.
Here.
Dan Spickard.
Here.
John Dietz. He said here. Ed Littlejohn.
Here.
Dan Spahn.
Here.
Farley Wood.
Here.
Okay, so we have everybody here. Santo is not, and John's on the phone. So from last meeting, we had an additional TWIC. Farley Wood got his TWIC for the board. We still have a couple more to go up in the core board. But we have also the oversight committees assigned and the ex officio. So that's the board status for now. Go ahead. And the agenda I sent to you guys, and you have it in front of you, if we could get a motion to discuss, review, and approve the agenda.
Motion.
Dan's for the motion, got a second. Little John's got a second. Any comments or questions on the agenda? Okay, with no questions, everybody in favor of passing the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, let the record show we passed the adoption of the agenda. Go ahead, MJ. Approval of previous minutes. I know I sent these out to everybody. I know I had Dan's wrong email, I think, because he didn't get it. But if you have, can I have a motion to bring the minutes to the floor for discussion and review? Doug, motion, second. Mark Elliptis. Comments, questions on the minutes from September 29th? With no comments or questions of those minutes, can I have everybody, all in favor of approving the minutes from September 29th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the minutes were passed. Go ahead, Jay. All right, so this week, some of the 4 resolutions we're going to talk about here in the meeting. We have a couple that will be brought up in executive session. But we'll start with Resolution 88. It's the Finance Charter Committee. The first 4 are similar in their language, but each one has a different sponsor. These are the board sponsors for these committees. The committees have been meeting over the last couple of months, and some longer. Finance committee's been about 6 months. Previously, we had some working groups under wing. These are separate committees, but why don't we start with Resolution 88. And what we'll do is, I'll bring it to the floor. We'll bring it to the floor, and then I'll have somebody read it in. Dan, you'll read that one.
Okay.
And I don't know if we need to read them all. They're all the same, but I want to make sure the sponsors introduce them, and then we'll vote on it. But can I have a motion for?
Well, Dan can read the first one, and everybody else just reads the header.
That's good. So we'll do that. Can I have a motion for Board Resolution 88 to the floor? Mark's got a motion, second. Ed Littlejohn. Comments, discussions, we'll let Dan read the resolution.
Weirton Airport Authority Board Resolution for the purpose of approving the restated and amended charter for the WAPA Finance Committee. Whereas the mission of WAPA includes ensuring public benefit of its activities to include oversight of WAPA's financial affairs. Whereas WAPA Board of Directors believes it is important that the legislative activities of the board are supplemented by the board-sponsored committee, allowing for more open discussion of issues facing WAPA. Consideration of multiple viewpoints and summarized findings for consideration by the board. And whereas the board strongly believes public discussion and engagement with experts is key to making the WAPA legislative process transparent and informed. And whereas WAPA follows the West Virginia Open Government Proceedings Act and extends this to all the board's charter committees. And whereas the Finance Committee was established as a result of the Resolution 68/2014 in August of 2013 and operating on an interim basis since that time. And therefore, let it be resolved that the board directs the permanent establishment of the WAPA Finance Committee, and further resolved that the board selects board member Daniel Spickard as the committee's first sponsor with a term expiring January 2015. And further resolved that the restated and amended charter for the WAPA Committee on Finance attached is approved, and further resolved that the board directs the sponsor of the Finance Committee, in close coordination with the Executive Director and Master at Arms, present a committee budget and staffing plan for formal review at the next monthly board meeting. And further resolved that the board approves the committee's utilization of WAPA General Counsel when required. In witness whereof, the undersigned duly qualified WAPA officers certify that the foregoing is true and correct copy of the resolution adopted at a legally convened meeting of the Weirton Area Port Authority held on today's date, October 29th, 2014.
Any comments or questions on the resolution from the board? Okay, with no comments or questions, all in favor of passing resolution 88, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, let the record show that has been passed by the board. So Mike, why don't you pass down the minutes and the first resolution, we'll start signing them. The next resolution is Board Resolution 89, and Santo's not here, but I'll let Mark read the title, the header, and we'll bring that to the floor for vote.
You want a motion, please?
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Ed makes a motion to bring the resolution to the floor. Do I have a second? Dan, second? So really, it's just the header.
I'm going to read the whole thing, just the heading.
No, just the heading and yeah, just the heading.
Okay, Board Resolution 89, 2014, Labor and Human Resource Committee. This was, if Santa was here, he would be reading this. Let me see. I'll read the whole thing.
No, you don't.
It's just,
It's the same language as the one beforehand.
it's exact same
Right.
language.
And they've been meeting also.
Well, but just, I didn't mean to interrupt you. These are open meetings to the public. And the Finance Committee is meeting every third month, or Tuesday of the month, and Labor meets every third Monday of the month. So they are open to the public, very similar to this public. So this just sponsors the restatement of the original charters.
Okay, any other comments or questions on 89? All in favor of passing resolution 89, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that one passed.
I will say this. Thank you.
Go ahead.
This is the only committee that's gotten their budgets done that are posted on the public website, so thank you. Have to put any pressure on you.
Challenge to the other committees, right? Now, the minutes, did we pass the minutes? So we're on Board Resolution 90, the Asset Charter Committee. And John, I'll speak to you. John Dietz is on the phone, but it'd probably be hard for you to hear him. This is Board Resolution 89. It's the Asset and Capital Planning Committee.
Did you want a motion?
Yeah. Okay, hold on. I'm walking around up here trying to stay out of the light and forever. All right, can I have a motion to bring Resolution 90 to the floor? Ed, motion, second?
Second.
Doug, second. Okay, now I'll read the title again. It's the Asset and Capital Planning Committee. It's authored by the Office of the Executive Director, sponsored and introduced by John Dietz, board member. And it's referencing a previous Board Resolution 68 of an independent committee diligence is where these all started. It's, again, the same language for the Asset and Capital Planning Committee. Any comments or questions on this, guys? With no comments or questions on Resolution 90, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record show that 90 passed. We are at 91. Operations Charter Committee. And that is Doug's. Motion, let's do a motion. Dan's motion, second. Pete's got a second in there. And, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sure. Authored by the Office of the Executive Director for the Operations Committee, introduced by Doug Belleville, that's me, in reference to Board Resolution number 68, Independent Committee Diligence, August 2013. This is the restated and amended resolution.
Any other comments or questions on the Operations Committee? No comments, questions, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That's 589, 90, 88. It's floating around somewhere. It's gotta be all right. I think we passed it.
Do you have anything signed here?
This one is 89. Yeah, we need.
First you sign.
BJ, here's a negotiation years. Wow.
Do you have anything yet?
This is 91. We got the one.
Yeah. You want anything?
Give me that one.
MJ.
Oh, there's 88 right here. Right. Hold on, we'll let this one get on through, and then we have 92.
Yeah, right here.
Okay, so we have Board Resolution 92. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor for discussion? Go ahead, Mark. Philippus, a second. Dan Spahn, second. All right, so I'm going to read this one for you. This is update to the Business Assessment and Economic Impact Report, authored by the Office of Executive Director and introduced by John Dietz. Reference a resiliency plan project, task 3, business assessment and economic impact. A Weirton Area Port Authority board resolution for the purpose of authorizing the Asset and Capital Planning Committee to commission an update to the business assessment and economic impact report. Whereas Weirton Area Port Authority, Inc. commissioned Stevens Institute of Technology to prepare a resiliency plan study, among other issues, the business assessment and economic impact of the Pike Island Pool Marine Terminal, and whereas second phase construction of Pennsylvania Route 576, the southern bypass between Route 22 and Interstate 79, is underway, and when completed will directly connect the Pike Island Pool on the National Inland Waterway System to the National Highway System. And whereas the WAPA Board of Directors strongly believes the economic impact this regional transportation improvement will have on the Pike Island Pool will be significant and should be qualified or quantified and studied in an update to the reference report. And whereas the board has received expressions of interest from businesses and labor indicating their support for implementing a foreign trade zone, and the update to the business assessment and economic impact report should include the impact to local, regional, and international trade. Therefore, let it be resolved that the board authorizes the Asset and Capital Planning Committee to commission an update to the business assessment and economic impact report. Further resolved that the board directs its sponsor, further resolved that the board directs its sponsor of the Weirton Area Port Authority Asset and Capital Planning Committee to present a status briefing at the next monthly board meeting. you have any comments or questions about Resolution 92?
Does everybody know what the Southern Beltway is?
Everybody understand Southern Beltway and what benefits of that will be? Okay, for everybody out here, it's the connection from the new airport toll road at 22 all the way over to Cannonsburg on 79. So it's a new main artery that'll open up the whole, what would that be, the southwestern side of PA to the Weirton area. And for commerce, it allows for the highway system to actually truck goods right to the river with the foreign trade zone. We can complete an export capability without having to go to the coast, and the expense and the time to get there. This will be a lot more efficient. Okay, no comments or questions. All in favor of passing Board Resolution 92, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record show Board Resolution 92 passed. Falls apart. All right, if you can hit the next slide, MJ, I'll do an update for the metrics. We do this every month. For those of you who've been here, you've seen it before, and I'm not going to read all the numbers, but we try to keep track of some of the statistics about our meetings and other activities. You can see we had monthly meetings. We're at 52 total monthly meetings, and I think we only, if we missed one, we stopped for a little bit, but I don't think we missed one, quorum-wise or anything, for a few years. We've approved 78 resolutions, 13 of them, 13 additional written consents. Those are the ones that go around between meetings and then get presented in the meeting. They have to be unanimous. One resolution was rejected. And then we have 7 in committee still today. So I need to sign one. Facebook, we gained another 8 followers on the WAPA Facebook page, and that's growing. And if you use Facebook, I try to put articles out there that are related, or maps or updates from the board now and then. Like this will be out there tomorrow. The agenda, I don't know if I got it out today. The attendance, you can see we're doing pretty good this year. Attendance is growing at the meetings. I appreciate everybody coming, and it's the best way to learn and participate in what we're doing. Go ahead, MJ. Volunteers are growing. We have 20 active, 16 applications, and we have a bunch, 8 in training. We had 2 that dropped out or discontinued the training, whether it be for moves or interest or whatever. And then we have terminal training, FEMA certifications, online training that you have to build a training background for a lot of the transportation type work, a lot of safety and security and material type activities, plus evacuation emergency. We have 138 certificates by the volunteer group in different training courses. And then this breaks down some level 1, level 2. The 1A, I mean, is this is the first level of training, and level 2 is the second. I think there's 8 in here. I'm not sure how many are in 2.
And I think there's 10 in level 2.
Yeah, and it's online, and you can read and take the training there. But if not, we have that's probably the only place you can take it right now, right? It's online.
It's online.
And then terminal security, TWIC credentials, we have 16 now. We had 11 last year. DHS, sensitive secure information non-disclosures, had 28, we're up to 35, and I know a few people picked a couple up today. And then CTPAT, Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism. That's a system to access into the CTPAT federal system. And we have 12 with logins and access that system. So everything's growing pretty good. And, Mr. Duco's been coordinating a lot of training, and you can see a lot of growth there, and I want to thank Joe for all that effort. This is an update of the Weirton Area Port Authority organization today. There's been different confusion about the organizational structure. In the beginning, it was just the board. And as we've gone through the years of development, we now have the board, which you see up here in front of you with me, the chairman. We have Master at Arms, which Marty started, we started a few months ago. We have board composition of the board is made up of a professional group, ex officios, those are the ex officios. We have professional, commercial, and labor. And then city and county, we have 2 seats, I think we have 3. One for each county, one for the city. They're not here, they haven't participated yet. And under the board, with all the activities, is where the charter committees come in with general counsel, Bill Galloway. He's in Colorado this week teaching a constitutional law class over there at the university. I'm not sure which one. But then the charter committees, a lot of the work will come through the committees to the board. It's the vetting activity, and where a lot of the diligence is done, and there'll be subcommittees eventually as we get larger and grow. But that allows for the work to be done through committee and participation of the membership and the participating entities and people involved. As grabbing as much regional, local, investor, public participation as we can to ensure that we're hitting everybody's interest for the region. And as we went through the resolutions tonight, you know who sponsors that. And then under that is, under the board is the Office of Executive Director. And that's an office, an active office, will be working in these various areas. Obviously, we have administrative needs. We're not fully staffed in all of these. We'll have a financial officer, compliance officer, Mr. Tipton, program officer, tech and ops officer, you and MJ. And then the executive director, which is Carl in the back, and they'll have an in-house counsel in that group. So we're building that today. The structure's there. We'll be filling those roles. Some of them are filled, but we'll be filling them as we continue. And go ahead, next slide. This is a diagram of the participating entities. We just talked about the Weirton Area Port Authority. The public-private partnership construct is the public with the private joined through a nonprofit. And they have different roles. This allows for the private, as I've described before, to invest in public infrastructure. It allows the public to maintain control and ownership of that infrastructure, while the privates, when they invest in it, they're investing in it so that they can improve their businesses. So if you're in Half Moon Park and you can get 200 trucks a day out of the park in your business, if you could invest to move that up to 800 trucks a day, you're growing 400% for a small investment. You're making money with that, whether it be you're providing additional services or your business is growing. So that's why private investors invest in these. And there's other institutional investors that invest in certain types of businesses in various disciplines. So the private, and we have Martin Phillips is here today in the back with West Virginia Real Estate Trust, and he's been one of the key investors behind a lot of the work we've done. But then in the private group, there are 3 companies. Real Estate Trust, West Virginia Real Estate Trust manages the real estate side. We talk about Half Moon or the Signode building. There's real estate down there with a great deal of encroachments and other things that need addressed. And so the real estate group would manage that with the Port Authority, but they do the real estate aspects. Tri-State Port Management, these are all special purpose companies. They're set up for the purpose in their bylaws to support these projects. Tri-State Port Management is an operational entity, foreign trade zone operation type activities that they'll manage. And then West Virginia Port Communications is the communications and technology. So you have silos of expertise that allows for specific institutional investment into their preferred investment, whether it be real estate or technology, but it also allows private investors and everybody to participate while we improve the infrastructure. Businesses generate more revenue and they do a lot more business, and we can attract a lot more business. At the same time, the revenue is shared with the Port Authority and the other groups for their role in what's brought to the table. And the Port Authority is creating the environment and the concession that allows for all this to operate. And I'll give you an example of a financial movement of the next slide. Here's an example that's ongoing today. The Weirton Area Port Authority, through its last 5 years of work, has established a portfolio of certifications and credentials, along with technology and a business structure that qualified into the federal program system, the federal assistance program. And by doing that, it's created a great deal of value over that period of time. And so we are able, as a Port Authority, to provide a West Virginia Real Estate Trust, for example, in this case, a concession to develop, to restore the Signode building. And that means to design, build, operate, and finance that facility to then get it, and they already have customers that want to move products in and out of there through rail, through road, additional and different customers, plus some of the ones that are in town today. So they already have a model where they can generate revenue by utilizing this facility. So if we give them the authority to do all this work, it's a port authority. The port authority will acquire the real estate to deal with any encroachments. But the real estate investment trust, this private for-profit company, can invest in restoring that building to operational use, charge for services. They have customers that they already want, and for that concession we're giving to this company, this real estate trust, it's a cost of $7.5 million back to the Port Authority over 5 years. So that's $125,000 a month in revenue that comes back to the Port Authority. Obviously, they wouldn't participate in that if they weren't making more money or enough money to do that. So there's a lot of details behind this, but that's a private company, and I don't have the specifics for the public because that's the separation of public and private, and keeping their private intellectual property private. They can. So we have now the Weirton Area Port Authority of $125,000 a month income that the boards and the committees have to budget, which we talked about some of the budgets in these last resolutions, to determine and budget for the use of that fund. That also, with all the qualifications of the Port Authority and the structure, we have a guaranteed financing. So there's a $12.5 million credit facility, which is a line of credit, I'll say, where you can draw down from the federal assistance program that's backed by federal guarantee. So no matter what happens, if something crazy would happen, we had a catastrophic event here, and something happened where the business had to decline or bankrupt or whatever, this business, the money's backed. So the investors are safe, but we also have to have a model that the risk is very low for anything like that to happen. So we have, it's unlikely that there'll be that type of event. But that gives you a sense of how does the Port Authority make money, and why would someone pay for the Port Authority? You can't pay for the city. The models or the counties, the legislative structure doesn't allow that. But we can offer this concession to restore this facility, which then takes a piece of property that the owners have that was reduced to a warehouse, brings it up to a operational it was a manufacturing building with much bigger assets than a warehouse, but because of the use and the cost over time, it had to be lowered because they weren't using it as a manufacturing building. But now the value of that comes up, and that generates more county tax money, and the businesses pay that, so the counties make money that way. So we're built. Now that doesn't cost the other businesses higher taxes because they're not renovating; they didn't change their building. But as we do these improvements, the whole property value area comes up. Plus safety and security is reduced, insurance rates go down, and these guys are making money already there. Customers, we're not in the building all the way yet. We're in it, but we're not fully in it. They're not operating in it yet. So that's kind of an example. Let's try to make it as simple as I could. There's a lot of other activities that go on for their type of private financing. There's grants and federal program and other federal funding available. But a lot of ours is focused on really private investment to generate private business that then improves the whole economy and shares revenue with the government entity and improves the infrastructure.
Right,
What about
on
you?
the finance committee.
Say it
all
again?
the details of the labor committee and
Yeah,
the operations and all those little.
Yeah, those committees will have all the detail behind a lot of this, and these are open meetings too in some cases. There'll be some separation. You guys have any questions up here that I just wanted clear enough?
So I get them in executive session.
I know, I just wanted to see if they had questions.
TikTok.
What's the next slide? And this was for the executive session. Now, before we do that, we want to entertain some questions out here before that. Yeah. So if you guys have some questions before we go into executive session, now if we have anything that comes out of executive session that needs voted on, we have to come back out here and vote. So if you want to stay, that's what you're welcome. If you have questions out there for us, it's open floor.
Mr. Joe Stankiewicz,
Joe
representing.
Stankiewicz.
Fred,
Press. Go ahead.
that $125,000 a month income, how accurate of a projection is that?
That's
Dead on.
That's the number.
That's not changed.
With the
Yeah,
board
that's-
wrestling with.
Yeah, right, we have to manage it properly.
Right,
You know what I'm saying? That's
a
the-
lot of room.
Well, there's no room for error, it'll be properly. But yeah, that's, because the value of that, I mean, that's a big park, and there's a lot of business that's conducted down here. And the roads were, Mark can tell you, if we had more infrastructure, the rail was moving, and the mill would do more. But that costs. And, you know, they're not a railroad company, so they do what they can do, but they're not gonna invest everything in the railroad. They're investing in making steel. So,
Okay, another thing, the stuff that was approved tonight, will that be on the website?
yeah,
This week?
yeah,
It's always on the website the next day.
yeah. Should be
Or you're
on.
gonna have it tomorrow?
You know how to use it, well, Joe?
Not really.
Training class and
That's what
labor,
Les is-
it got brought up last week, web training.
Road training, let's put
Mark
that
it
on.
down, Joe.
That's Les's job. He does
You
that.
got
That's why you
email
come
me
together,
about
so you do
this.
the email, we can. Go ahead. Any other questions?
Joe, what this is, you go back to the previous slide, so the audience. That number is, that 4.5 and those numbers on that chart up there are real numbers.
Yeah, they're real numbers.
They're
of
insured.
numbers, yeah.
They're insured for loss of business, they're insured the whole sheet, your guaranteed income to the full.
It's really about reducing risk.
Not the way they did at Wall Street whenever we lost all that money in my house and stuff.
Well, they didn't, the mortgage guys did
Joe,
that.
everything out of your mouth that devalues our local.
We don't want any scams.
That's right.
Come to your committee meetings.
Any other questions? Okay, with that, I'll need a motion to enter executive session.
A motion.
Doug motions, I'll have a second. Mark second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we'll adjourn to executive session.
But for the public, there's information on this.
Did you get the copy?
Yes.
You're the 87 original.
Do you want yours things?
Mine,
That was in that package.
Oh, yeah.
I got loads of.
We got everybody?
Yes, thank you. I wonder what
We could probably come back in this session.
I make a motion to come back in the session.
I second that.
Hold on,
Hang
do
on,
it again.
hang on.
Roll.
I make a motion to come back in the general session.
Second.
Second by Doug, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we're back in the general session, and in the executive session, we discussed a variety of topics. All through the insurance updates, some of the legal discussions of submissions and corporate structures, and financing activities. And also the operating concession, we talked about, it's Resolution 87, and in the meeting back there, we felt we should come back out here and bring it up, talk about it, and vote on it. And it's I'm going to read this, it's a few pages. This is a
BJ,
board.
bring it to the table.
What's
Motion,
that?
bring it to the table.
Oh,
I make a motion to bring it to the table.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so it's on the floor, yeah. Is that right? All right, so this is Board Resolution 87, operating concession for intermodal rail terminal. Authored by Office of the Executive Director, introduced by D. Felice. References, WAPA 2012 Master Plan Summary, Resolution 27, Small Business Mentorship Program, 28, the resolution is restrict access to port facilities and mandate use of TWIC. Resolution 31, establish port tariff fees. 34 was WAPA support for union representation. 40, Resolution 40 is establish a public commercial heliport seaplant base. Resolution 43, facility operating concession. Written consent number 8, submit special rail and intermodal enhancement fund. Resolution 63, local port district, critical infrastructure, key resource protection. Resolution 65, support the Veterans Mission Continues Program. Resolution 77, procurement of commercial insurance. Resolution 81, Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism. Proclamation 12-01 was port-to-port secure trade initiative proclamation between West Virginia and San Luis Potosi, Mexico, to include trade, communications, and technology transfer, and the Critical Infrastructure Information Act of 2002. Those are the references. A Weirton Area Port Authority Board resolution for the purpose of issuing an operating concession for the Pike Island Pool Intermodal Rail Terminal facility. Whereas WAPA, a political subdivision of the state of West Virginia, is charged with governing its designated local port district by the West Virginia Public Port Authority. Its governing authority is the WAPA West Virginia Public Port Authority Operating Agreement, WAPA bylaws, the West Virginia Port Authority resolution granting WAPA powers and duties, and West Virginia Code 1716B. And whereas the WAPA Board of Directors recognizes that the Pike Island Pool Intermodal Rail Terminal property closing is nearing completion, and as such, WAPA is interested in offering a suitable and qualified affiliate an operating concession that includes the design, build, operate, finance, and transfer of improvements made to the Pike Island Pool Intermodal Rail Terminal facilities. And whereas WAPA, by the adoption of BR 28/2012, has established its requirement that all persons supporting, utilizing, and accessing port-related facilities must obtain and utilize DHS Transportation Worker Identification credentials. And whereas WAPA has published the goal to establish a foreign trade zone, and under BR 81 has authorized the Office of Executive Director to establish a CTPAT program, among other actions. And whereas WAPA under BR 63/2013 declared certain infrastructure within the local port district as critical infrastructure and key resources. And whereas the Critical Infrastructure Information Act of 2002 authorizes the protection of critical infrastructure and key resource information in the United States Department of Homeland Security, satisfies the requirements of this legislation under the Protect Critical Infrastructure Information Program and the Automated Critical Asset Management System. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Board authorizes the OED, specifically the Executive Director, to negotiate an operating concession with a qualified affiliate. This concession or contract shall be performance-based and shall include a base contract term of 5 years with 2 5-year options, include strict program management controls to ensure all activities of the concession holder relating to the contract are done for public benefit, develop and publish a WAPA tariff schedule and file such with Federal Maritime Commission, ensure the contracts meet the requirements for filing with the Federal Maritime Commission under the procedures of the Shipping Act, Title 46, Chapter 4, Subchapter B, Part 535, and ensure the contract includes provisions for paying an escalating income-based concession fee or fees to WAPA, and further resolve that BR 43/2012 shall be rescinded, and the Office of Executive Director shall be responsible through its management, compliance, administrative, and program manager rules to oversee this and other concessions on behalf of WAPA. And further resolve that the operating concession shall include provisions for the design, build, and finance of the Pike Island Pool Intermodal Rail Terminal, and the qualifications for the affiliate concessionaire shall include the ability throughout the term to finance the design, build, and operations of the Pike Island Pool Intermodal Rail Terminal. And further resolve that the operating concession shall include provisions for the transfer of all improvements made to the Pike Island Pool Intermodal Rail Terminal, reassignment of active contracts, and include other necessary provisions to complete the transfer back to WAPA or to an operating concession with another entity at the termination of this contract. And further resolve that the concessionaire, on behalf of WAPA, shall negotiate and execute vendor, shipping, access, and other necessary contracts within the established WAPA tariff schedule. And further resolve that the concessionaire under this contract shall meet the CTPAT requirements as outlined in Resolution 81. Further resolve that the board declares under Board Resolution 63 that the Pike Island Pool Intermodal Rail Terminal be designed or be designated critical infrastructure. And further resolve that the concessionaire and the Office of Executive Director shall jointly establish a comprehensive critical infrastructure asset assessment, prioritization, data management program. Further resolve that the concessionaire and the OED shall jointly establish a comprehensive critical infrastructure asset assessment, prioritization, data management program under the DHS Automated Critical Asset Management System and protected critical infrastructure information programs. And further resolve that the concessionaire on behalf of WAPA shall collect tariffs and fees as deemed appropriate. Further resolve that the board directs the OED, or the board directs that the Office of Executive Director shall acquire additional insurance above the required in BR 77 to include business income loss insurance to cover the monthly lease payments made by the concessionaire to WAPA, and to also include West Virginia Board of Risk and Insurance Management casualty insurance. And further resolve that the concessionaire shall acquire and hold throughout the term of the contract commercial liability, workman's compensation, and surety insurance, which shall cover the design, build, operate, finance, and transfer, and the total value of the contract. And further resolve that the concessionaire's internal accounting, proprietary information, and certain other information, as allowed by law, except as provided for in the next paragraph, shall not be publicly disclosed. And further resolve that the concessionaire and its majority holding affiliates shall be part of the WAPA omnibus public-private structure, and as such shall be subject to auditing by the State of West Virginia Auditors Securities Division, and may also be subject to public release of some company information not normally released by government contractors. And further resolve that WAPA supports the concessionaire's participation as a host in the Veterans Mission Continues Program, Board Resolution 27 and Board Resolution 65. And further resolve that WAPA directs the OED, Office of Executive Director, WAPA directs that the Office of Executive Director include provisions in this contract to plan for the design, build, operate, finance, and transfer of the public commercial heliport and seaplane base as outlined in BR 40. Further resolve that the concession contract include provisions to design, build, operate, finance, and transfer communications towers to facilitate operations of the seaplane airport, the port, the FAA, U.S. Coast Guard, and DHS Communications. Further resolve that the concessionaire shall support its employees, if they so choose, to conduct organizational efforts with local labor unions, to include the United Steelworkers Union 2911, and as such, Board Resolution 34 shall be amended to read as follows. Line 1, after Weirton Airport Authority, Inc., insert, and the concessionaire. Line 10, after Weirton Airport Authority, Inc., insert, and the concessionaire. And line 12, after Weirton Airport Authority, Inc., insert, and the concessionaire. Further resolve that prior to executing the concession, the Executive Director shall present the contract to the Board for approval.
That's only for the reading. Sorry, yeah, right.
Okay, so, and we talked about this in the executive session. Are there any comments or questions? Because I'll make a comment, but I want to see if there's questions from you guys. So what we're doing here is we're issuing the concession to an affiliate. And we talked about it in there and amending other resolutions to align with that. So in summary form, it was a lot of those things. With no comments or questions, go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt the protocol.
All right, go ahead.
All right, but this is the first time as a total board here, we have all of the labor, professional side, the private sides. Farley, you are the concessionaire.
Yes.
All right, so not to take you out of the equation, I just think it's something I'm asking the board that it is from the OED office should recuse.
Yeah, he was.
Is it unanimous?
Yes.
All right, so if you are going to vote on this, this is my gun.
We were going to vote, and he was going to recuse.
All right, I just want to make sure we're following protocols, as close as we can. There's no showstoppers here, so whatever you're going to do, go ahead.
Okay, so Farley's recusing.
Make a motion to accept.
We motioned to talk about it already, now it's just a vote. So, no other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor of passing Resolution 87?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, let the record show, we, board passed Resolution 87, operating concession to the affiliate. Next meeting is December 3rd, probably here, 6 PM, but likely it'll be here unless we change it. With any other topics or comments? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
By Doug, and all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, meeting adjourned.
Wow, guys, that's a